Greetings, my fellow peace blunderers, and today I'm talking about an incredible endgame technique which can save you seemingly unsavable games. Today we are talking about forcing a stalemate from your opponent in positions that look quite bad for us, so that in the end we manage to claw away a valuable draw instead of just losing the game altogether. Also, if you feel like your endgame needs a bit of improving, feel free to check out the video that I released just yesterday, also an endgame video talking about another incredible endgame phenomenon called the trebuchet. If you don't know what it is, feel free to check that one out once you're done with this one. Anyway, let's look into our position number one and let's see what it's all about, forcing a stalemate. We're looking at it from white's perspective, so white pawns are going there and black pawns are going there, so that there's no confusion, and it's black to move. And this position at first glance looks quite bad for black, not gonna lie. We've got this very vulnerable c5 pawn, which white king is quite close to and is desperate to capture it so that the c pawn is let loose and queening and winning. And it's really a hard time for black to try and defend it. Okay, so again, black to move can't really go anywhere there because this is all blocked. This is also blocked by the pawns. So you can go maybe king b6, trying to stay as close to that critical c5 pawn as possible. But then white plays king d6. And it's like, aha, opposition. So what are you going to do now? Now, any move with a king is going to be losing the c5 pawn because there is no square on the board the black king can go to from where it still defends the pawn naturally. So I can go like, I don't know, king a5 and then white captures the pawn and is definitely queening and winning. If, for example, we try something a little bit different. Okay, so I don't want to move my king. My king is perfectly placed on c6, and that is true. That is true. If the black king stayed on c6 forever, if that was possible theoretically, this would be a very easy draw. However, if black tries something different, let's say, okay, I don't want to move my king, I'm like, gonna move the pawn, right? Gonna be the same end result because a5 now, and black is in Zugzwang. Black is forced to make a move that worsens black's position. This square is also taken away from black's king now, so black's king only got two squares available, and neither of them is good. So like king c7, and now king d5 instantly wins. For white, same reason, just takes that pawn, queens the c pawn, and wins. At the same time, if we go back to our original setup right here, black can miraculously draw this game using exactly the trick that is above my brick head, forcing a stalemate. Now, a stalemate is something that a lot of people only think when they're winning, right? So when you're up 10 pieces and when you don't want to stalemate your opponent so that you don't lose a victory, that is when you think about stalemate. At the same time, a lot of people don't think about stalemate at all when they're defending or when they think they're losing. Just doesn't cross their mind for some reason. This is exactly the mindset that I am trying to beat with this video. I am trying to tell you, you must start finding opportunities for stalemates in these sorts of scenarios. And what am I talking about even? These scenarios. We've got, in this position, just a couple of pawns left, which is a good start already. And most of them are blocked, which is even better. Like, this can't move. If we can find a creative way of getting ourselves trapped, but in a good way, we will manage to get a draw for a stalemate. We need to find a way how to maybe block this pawn and block out the king entirely. And this is not going to be easy all the time, trust me. Like, this takes a bit of a creative mindset. However, again, the general purpose of this video is that every time you are in a position like this one, you don't forget about stalemating chances. You start thinking about it and you may find a solution. Now, does this puzzle, so to speak, have a solution? Yes, I basically spoiled it. Yes, it does. So I was talking about how we need to block this pawn and we need to somehow get our king trapped as well, because it's not going to be very easy. At least it doesn't look easy because from here the king has got some squares. So yeah, but you know, we got to start somewhere. And it may look like a6 is the logical move because, you know, it maybe tries to block another pawn up, but we've seen how a6 fails to work because a6 forces a5 and the king is forced away and loses the pawn, loses the game. So a6 doesn't work. We need to look at another solution, and that is king b6. And we looked at one variation after king b6 already as well. We looked at king b6, king d6, and something like this. Again, loses the pawn, loses the game. However, we're not looking at king a5 anymore. We're looking at a smarter move. So, king moves are no good for us. Let's look at what happens after a6, right? If a6 is played, the king doesn't have to go anywhere, still defends that pawn, and for now, we're just fine and dandy. However, white is going to be like, okay, fine, I'm going to play something like king d5, and what are you going to do? Again, move your king, lose the pawn, lose the game. If you go a5 now, okay, I go back to d6, the same shtick. Now, all of your pawns are blocked off, so there are no pawn moves. You've got to move your king and win again. Lose the pawn, lose the game. So it does almost look like black is in trouble unless black finds a move that is absolutely brilliant. Trapping your own king, making it completely isolated from any available square, and that is king a5. It blocks the king, and perhaps even more importantly, it blocks that a6 pawn from moving. And now, what are you going to do as white? Nothing you can do. If you take the pawn back, it's a draw. It's a stalemate. This can't move, the king can't move. Brilliant, isn't it? And you might think that maybe white can force something happen, maybe just waste the move, king d6, but black just goes back to b6 and it's not going to do much. White can try and triangulate a little bit. King e5 maybe, going like this, trying to waste the move, maybe get black into a tricky situation, but no, just king a5, going back and forth. That's all black needs to do in this position. Go back, defend. King d6, go back there. If takes again, a draw. Now, if you thought that was fun, I've got an even crazier position for you of completely different character to this one. Different patterns, different motives, but the end goal is going to remain the same. Forcing a stalemate, forcing a draw. Let's look at position number 2. And like I promised, it's going to be different. We've got rooks still on the board. We've got this pawn that isn't blocked and is unlikely going to be blocked because there is no pawn on the e-file. And yeah, this position looks quite dire for black, and it is, honestly. In contrast to position number 1, this one is actually winning for white, unless white slips up. And this is all we want, right? We want to get a chance to do something. And, you know, in endgames, opponents do slip up. And in this position, the slipping up starts with the move that is h7. Now, h7 looks completely innocent. And it makes a lot of sense because, you know, our pawn was attacked by this rook on h1. And yes, on h7, it can still technically be taken because 2 attackers, 1 defender and all that. So we can just, you know, take here and then take takes. But this is obviously a winning endgame for white. It's very easy to win. So black wouldn't want to go into that simplification. So on h7, the pawn is safe. At the same time, what the h7 move did is that created this glimpse of an opportunity for black to stalemate because the black king is now trapped after h7. This square is taken by the pawn, this square is taken by the rook. So, as long as the pawn and the rook stay where they are, we can create a stalemate. And how are we going to do that? Well, like I said, the black king is trapped, meaning that if we somehow manage to find a way to get rid of the rook and the pawn, just get them off the board, with black to move, that would be a stalemate, right? Because black has got no legal moves and it's a draw. How do you do that? That's the question. And again, this position is still winning for white. There is no forceful way to do it, unlike position number 1, but we could try. So rook h5 for the moment, just making an innocent looking move. It's not as easy for whites to progress here, right? Because the pawn is stuck and the rook is more or less stuck to defending this pawn. So what we expect from white as black now is to move the king and the pawns up, which is exactly what we want, funnily enough. And white does that. So g4, and now that our rook is attacked, you may think, well, this is a perfect opportunity to try and hang something. So I'm not going to save my rook, I'm going to move the pawn, right? So I'm going to actually hang both pieces at the same time. Now, this is a stalemating attempt, and it may work out on the lower levels. However, it is a little bit on the nose, right? So if white takes the rook and we play something like e3 check, and the white king takes, congratulations, it's a stalemate, it's a draw. So again, it can work, but maybe not that likely. Also, there is a very interesting point that after e3 check, white still needs to be a little bit careful. So like if avoiding the stalemate, not taking the pawn but playing king e1, e2, and then again you can't take because it's a stalemate. So what you would do instead as white is you would just check and force the black king out of the corner, takes that pawn, takes the pawn. Now stalemate is definitely not on the cards unless white wants terribly later on in the game. So we need to be a little bit more patient, and the important general rule is that whenever you have a pawn and a piece or a couple of pieces, it's strongly recommended that you get rid of the pawn first and the piece second. Why? I'm about to show you. So we're not losing the rook just yet, so we're playing a patient rook h1. Again, white is still winning, black is just trying to maybe create an opportunity later down the line. So g5, rook h2 check. And believe it or not, after the next move, this position going from +7 for white goes to absolute zeros, which is ridiculous when you consider, that king e3 looks fine, right? So king e3 looks completely fine. However, now black pounces with rook g2, attacking the pawn on g5, and it's like, okay, white may be completely unaware of what is going on, may play something like f4, for example. White is thinking, I'm going to just push my pawns forward, I'm going to exchange this pawn for that pawn, push my king forward, and certainly with 2 extra pawns, where they are, I'm going to win. And this is where black is robbing the hands, because black finally gets to exchange the pawn, like I said, pawns first, pieces second, with e takes f, king takes f. And let's just see what's about to happen, because we're going to do this. Rook g4 check. There you go. Brilliant, isn't it? Rook g4 check, hanging the rook intentionally. And this is exactly why I get rid of the pieces second, because the pieces you can lose in a more forcing way. And what I mean by that, with pieces you can deliver checks. And it is important because checks must be addressed in one way or another, and they literally do force the white king to either take the rook or do something else. And the white king can't take the rook, because if it takes rook, then voila, it's a draw, it's a stalemate. We have achieved what we wanted exactly, as black got rid of the pawn and of the rook very organically and forcefully as much as we could. And you could say, well, I'm not going to take the rook, I'm going to play king f5. Well, rook takes g5 with check again. And there is no escape for the white king anymore. There isn't one. You can't find it. Everywhere you go, the rook is just going to keep checking and keep hanging itself. It doesn't even have to hang itself, but you can do it just for some style points, right? So like, I don't know, king d3, bang, another check, and there is no escape. If the king tries to go to the rook, right, to get some assistance, the rook being on a7 is not going to act as cover anyway, because, the king cannot go to, like, I don't know, what's the first letter of the alphabet before A? Wait, there isn't one. The king can't go to like square left of the rook, if you know what I'm talking about. So can't do that. So yeah, something like king b7, and this is where we got to be a little bit careful, because if we play something like rook c7 check, this is going to be terrible news for black, because after king takes, this is not stalemate. We are blocking the rook with the king, so the king actually has a square. So takes pawn, but loses eventually. So gotta be still careful with your checks. Play something like rook b6 check instead. And king a8 maybe, but this check. This check, and this is definitely just a fool's draw, because there are no legal moves other than takes and draws. So yeah, a ridiculous position, that one as well, going from white winning very easily, but still needing to be a bit more careful, just drawing with this one move. And this is exactly what I'm talking about. This is exactly what we need to do when we want to create the best chances for drawing. Trying to be patient, pounce at the necessary time, and this was exactly the best time for the black rook to pounce when we got the pawn off the board and when the white king has got no cover at all. So yeah, that is forcing a stalemate for you. Let me know in the comments below if you were in any similar positions on either side of the board, and if you just so happens to find this video useful, please like and subscribe. Follow me on Twitch. I stream Tuesdays, Thursdays and Sundays. Find me on chess.com, join our Discord, all that good stuff. And I'm going to talk to you very soon, my favorite unintentional gambiteers. I love you all. See ya in the next one.